Welcome to Empower Her Radio, the space for powerhouse women ready to step into their next level of abundance, purpose, and personal freedom. I'm Dr. Corey Winn, a high performance coach, doctor of physical therapy, philanthropist, and business consultant. I help ambitious women align with their highest calling, expand their wealth and impact, and create a life that feels as good as it looks. If you're a high achieving woman who's built success yet finds yourself craving more alignment, more purpose, more ease, you're in the right place. Here, we bridge the gap between ambition and fulfillment. Through transformative conversations and proven strategies, you'll gain the courage to step into the fullest expression of you. Build a powerhouse business that aligns with your expertise and divine gifts, and lead your life, both personally and professionally, with unshakable confidence, worthiness, and compassion. This is about expansion, legacy, and owning your power unapologetically. You already have everything inside of you to create a life of unlimited possibility. It's time to unlock it. Welcome to your next level. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the show. Today's guest is someone who's transforming leadership from the inside out, especially in the spaces that we often overlook. Traci Austin is the founder and chief talent officer of Elevated Talent Consulting and a powerhouse leadership strategist with over 2 decades of HR and workforce development experience. She's a rare blend of strategy and heart, and her mission is clear: to close the leadership gaps in the trades. Through her leadership development program, podcast, and hands-on consulting, Traci teaches practical, no-fluff leadership strategies that actually work in fast-paced, high-stakes environments. Whether she's working with foremen or field leaders, she's equipping the people who build our world to lead with confidence and compassion. Traci, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Corey.
So let's start from the beginning. Tell us how you started your consulting practice and what led you to that space.
Absolutely. So I started my practice over 7 years ago, and I was consulting for a CPA firm, and I saw a gap in the market. I was like, there's so many really small organizations that don't necessarily have the means to pay some of those big consulting prices. And what I also knew is that there was a key training piece that was missing. So that's how Elevated Talent was born.
Yeah. Take us back to the beginning. Give us a little bit of your personal story, what made you pivot, all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the pivot was really seeing this need in the market and going, culture is a really big deal. And I define culture as the behavior that we allow or don't allow. But culture also needs to be in alignment into your personal values as aligned into the core values of the organization. And the firm that I was with was an incredible firm. It wasn't a culture match. Therefore, it was going, okay. And you know what? Some of those conversations are some of the best conversations, because how do we ensure that we both are interviewing to bring in the right people for culture, but also promoting and ensuring that those individuals kind of grow with that? So, that was a key piece within the pivot. And I think sometimes we fall into things not really knowing what we're doing. It's kind of like, okay, here's the vision and something better is going to come out of it than what I imagine. And that this was definitely the case. Our leadership development program really came out of our consulting work, and it was hearing the same concerns over and over. I was going, okay, how do we serve this again in a way that works for organizations, to bring folks through it, knowing that not every organization has a learning and development department, and there's a beauty to collaborative work and learning from others in your community.
Well, and just everything that you just said also empowers our audience to go and search for that culture.
Yes.
Let's set the pace for giving permission of, okay, I love my job and this piece of it is sucking my soul away.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we fix that?
Yeah.
Do you have strategies for both people looking for jobs as well as the leaders that you work with to search for that person? Is that part of
Yes,
your
for
consulting
sure.
of like,
Yeah.
we find this talent? How do we market to that person? How do we let them know that this is the environment that they're walking into?
Absolutely. So we have a workshop and we can link it. It's free. It's called our career goal setting workshop. And so if you're sitting here going, what is it that I want in a career change? It'll give you really key insights and some really good reflective nudges to
Mhm.
figure out what is it that I really want to do? What does the environment look like? What are the core values that I have? And so many of us personally, it's like, hey, Corey, what are your core values?
Mhm.
Like,
I was
I don't
just
know.
talking about this with a guest earlier because so often we don't know. We
Yeah.
react a certain way or we blend ourselves to a certain path, but we don't recognize that it's because of a core value.
Yeah. And when you have a core value, now all of a sudden you can start to see everything through it. So mine is adventure, impact, beauty, and belonging.
Mhm.
And when I look at why am I creating leadership development programs? Well, guess what? We can create a sense of belonging at work. Guess what? We
Mhm.
have to believe we belong.
Mhm.
First, there's an and both here. It is not just the responsibility of the organization, it is also your responsibility and your thoughts as you're stepping into these.
Right. Right. When you think about how many hours the typical person gives to their work every day, I think of my parents and they stuck out in their jobs for 30 plus years because they loved the culture. Could they have
Mhm.
moved and gone and done other things? Absolutely. But I mean, these are people now that my parents are retired that they still go to lunch with, that they
Yeah,
still ask about their kids. So when you have that family environment, if that's belonging, if that's what you're looking for, that makes you excited to go to work every day. It makes
exactly.
you want to work harder or do more or have projects. Um, is there a like specific person who typically looks more for this? Like I work a lot with women, obviously, and a lot of times we close ourselves off and put ourselves in a box and we can only do this. And the fear of pivoting is so huge. How do you work with your clients, both men and women, to kind of strip that fear away?
Yeah. So you said something at the very beginning of the show, and I want to bring that back around because it was fabulous, and it was permission. So often, and I literally, I have folks take out, a piece of paper. So if you're listening, you can take out a piece of paper and say, I, name,
Yes.
Tracy, give myself permission to find a job that I love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Find a culture, whatever that is for you that unconsciously you're not giving yourself permission to do because it hasn't been okay up until now. That permission is sometimes such a big piece. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times if we're working through it, it's let's put the permissioning in a container. We've got a half hour where we have a coaching call. Let's put that permissioning in this container so that you can dream within this. You can choose what you do with it afterwards if you want to or not, but let's just try it on.
Right. Right. I love that. And I think there's fear there too. But first is, oh, is there something out there that's different? And I think all of us have the story of having worked for a company or worked in an area that was sucking our soul away. And
Mhm.
until you give yourself permission to say, I don't love this,
Right.
and then own that and give yourself permission to say, well, okay, well, how can I fix that? What can I do differently? I mean, it's such an empowering place to be.
Yeah. And I think there's two things here that I'd love to point out that go right along with that. So we realize we don't like the job. Well, guess what? We take ourselves with us. So
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
important to look at and say, am I moving away from something or am I moving towards something? And if we're moving towards something, what is it that we're moving towards? Let's really define that. What
Mhm.
is it that we want so we can move towards it? And I think that's step one is let's define what we actually want. So often it's, I don't know, I just don't like this.
Right.
Okay, well, you're going to be constantly running away from something versus moving towards something. And that's why that career goal setting workshop is so powerful because we're defining what you're moving towards.
Mhm.
And that's one key piece. Then the second key piece I always love to say to folks is don't ever leave a job until you can learn to love it.
Mhm.
And it's a choice. Yes, the job can be sucking your soul, but let's figure out how you can be content in that job within it, because there's a gift in being in hard things and really figuring out what that is and then saying, I'm going to move towards something. And so often, once we figure out how to love the job that we're in, we figure out what we're moving towards instead of what we're moving away from.
Mhm. I can see that. When you think about core values, what are some of the ones that come up most often in the work that you do?
We is greater than me is a huge one. And, there's a ton of research out there as well around teams and around very high functioning teams. And, when you're really looking at organizations and who you're looking to work with, what does that team look like? And so, there's four drivers to engagement that we typically look at. One is, am I in the right role? Right.
Mhm.
And so we use predictive index, which is a behavioral tool that matches to the job itself. But within that, I'm someone who is um, very persuasive, very communicative. I move really fast. I'm a change agent. Details, deadlines, they're negotiable, right? Okay. Right? I mean, I'm just being honest, right? If I know something's really important, it'll be done. If I think
Yeah.
there's wiggle room on it, oh, it'll get pushed. So I need to know where the guardrails are.
Mhm.
Now, I did payroll for 7 years. Does that personality sound like a great one for payroll? Not at
No.
all. But guess what? I knew I had to have that skill set for where I wanted to go. And I knew that I needed to understand the compliance piece, how it worked. I needed to understand the payroll systems. I needed to understand what levers do you need to pull to make these things happen to be successful in my next level roles.
Mhm.
So, was I willing to love that job, even though it was soul sucking, because I knew that it was something that I could use at the next level? Absolutely. Could you
Yeah.
get me to do payroll today? No.
Right.
However, right? And so there's five levers actually. Seasons of life is number five, right? That was that, hey, I was in a season of life of climb, 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 which made it, I had the motivation, even though it wasn't a natural behavioral match.
Mhm.
And so, that's something really important to pay attention to as well. Because there's seasons of life where it doesn't matter what your job is, you don't have much to give to it. And you have to work much harder in order to show up the best at work in those times. And then there's the others, right?
Yeah.
But going back to the team, we all have strengths and weaknesses. What
Mhm.
a great team does is it turns up the strengths on every single person in the team versus playing whack-a-mole on the weaknesses.
Yes. Yes. And I took the Clifton Strengths Assessment years ago, and I was fascinated by it because it talked about what your top strengths are. One of mine is futuristic, and it made so much sense because I am always thinking about what's going to happen way down the line. But it didn't talk so much about weaknesses, it talked about blind spots and creating a team atmosphere with the people who maybe have strengths in your blind spots.
Mhm.
And it was fascinating to me because I thought, if we could all create a team that, yes, technically there's usually a leader. I mean, you're the head of a company, I'm a head of a company. Um, but to then put people in place whose strengths are your weaknesses or your blind spots, the whole company, the university, the whatever it is, will be so much better off.
Mhm.
And obviously, you're with the work that you do, putting the right person in the right job helps you not end up in a soul sucking type of situation.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. And my question is, why is it soul sucking to you? It's probably not going to be soul sucking to the next person. It may be, hey, we've outgrown it. It's something that it's not a behavioral match, but guess what? For a time, I needed to learn a skill set. Thus, I had a motivation to it. But there's times where there's a cultural piece to this that it is just not a great match from that perspective.
Mhm.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
If we flip this, the clients that I work with, we look at their core values. I do not create core values for organizations. It's a very special skill set to do that. That's not something that I do. I take them once they're created. And what we do is we create interview questions around them that are very behavioral based.
Mhm.
And so we create a scorecard with that. We build them into the performance appraisal process. We build them into the one-on-one conversations. We build them into the recognition programs so that we're talking about the behaviors that align to those core values.
Mhm.
And then we're looking at those core values when we're making decisions. Now, of course, we have to look at what is the purpose and does it align, but
Right.
it makes decisions much easier, and it makes it so you look at it and you're going, okay, well, this really doesn't align with this, therefore why are we doing it again?
Right.
Okay, well,
Yes. Yes.
let's just sit on this one a minute, whereas this one hits all of them. Does this hit the purpose as well? Now we can move forward with that.
I love that you guys help with interview questions around the core values. There's been so many companies that I've worked for that just have generic interview questions, that you could prep for any job with.
Hmm.
And then we wonder why, 60, 90 days, a year later, this person's not a good fit. Well, they were never a good fit
Right.
for the core values or the environment in that workplace. So that also empowers the employers to find the right people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, onboarding is so incredibly important. I mean, if you have a great training and onboarding program, you're much more likely to keep the folks that are there.
Mhm.
And with a great onboarding program, and, we work with our organizations, one, to train new hire buddies that are line level staff to kind of be mentors to these new hires coming in, but they have a plan that is very specific of here is, some conversation starters. Here's some key things that they should know, that they should be introduced to each week, and that they should master at 70%, 80%, 90%, so that there's a clear pathway to that. And you've got a peer that is that buddy for you with it. And that strengthens that. The flip side of that is if things aren't going well, we have to have a tough conversation.
Right.
And the tough conversation is probably going to be, for our leaders listening, your most important job.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. And that's the interesting place to be a lot of times because a lot of leaders have um benchmarks, I guess, for lack of a better word, for employee retention. It affects them. So helping you not only hire the right person, give them the skills to be there, and then create an environment that they want to stay in, it reflects in all directions.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
How has this pivot helped you kind of create your own boundaries and build your own world around the fact that details aren't as big of a deal and deadlines, yes, are sometimes important, but not? Have you been able to create the best environment for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And part of that is figuring out what your greatest strengths are. For me, I'm an amazing coach and I'm an amazing trainer, right? Like that's where my strengths are. Therefore, I'm not trying to put myself into a consultant role where I'm writing handbooks. Like, not my
Mhm.
strength, right? Like if I need to jump in and look at something real quick, well, of course, but like that's not where my strengths are. So some of that is creating, days and blocks of time where I'm doing my best work and I have that in front of me so I can truly be in flow with it. And, it's hiring the right people on your team. I have some amazing, amazing team members that truly take care of the details. They take care of all of the things that make that back end of a business run incredibly well while serving at the highest level.
Mhm.
And shifting into that training and that coaching, also what that does is that allows for some of those areas that were, pain points previously, they're not there because they're no longer included in that key work. And so I refer a lot of things out for folks that'll do it better and faster than I will.
Mm-hmm. And that's the most beautiful part, for one, of being your own company. But obviously, the work that you have done has been extensive to figure out who you are. And I want the audience to really hear that today is owning who you are, owning your strengths, hiring a consulting firm or a coach if you don't know what they are,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
empowering you to make the best decision for you, because that's the message that I want to bring to all the women that are listening. So many of us settle for so long, and there's
Right.
no room for that. We only have one life.
Right. Or we will have all these thoughts in our head that not good enough. I'm a failure. I can't. I won't. We're being told all of these things. You know what? Those are all thoughts. When those become beliefs, they stop you from doing the things that you want or need to do.
Yes.
And all a belief is a thought that you've thought over and over and over again that you now believe it's a fact.
Right.
And so, I mean, I've had to just sit down and say, okay, like, what is actually true? Like, I don't
Huh?
know. Like, what is
Uh-huh.
true?
Yes. Yes.
And it's like, is running a business, can I actually do it? Is that a real job? Like, wait,
Mm-hmm.
what?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, do you believe it's a real job? What would it take for you to believe that that's a real job? What would, so start asking yourself those questions. And here's the thing, write them down. Our
Mm-hmm.
brain has this beautiful, and I say that with so much sarcasm, way of changing the goalposts
Yes.
that, like, hey, when I hit my first 500,000, it's going to be the best thing ever. Then you hit the 500,000 and you're like, well, that was a shitty year.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yes.
So it's like, write it down and celebrate it. It's like, there's so many good things, but I love Dan Sullivan's The Gap and the Gain. Like, where's
Uh-huh.
your gain from the day before?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So beautiful. And just taking the moment to celebrate the little wins. I have a vision board in my office, and I just looked at it over the weekend, and I took down the things that I've accomplished. And it's so important to have that notebook of a vision board accomplished, or whatever you want to call it, things to be able to look back and go, oh, I really have. Because I'm
Yes.
sure, like you, as as well as clients, um, we forget how far we've come,
Right.
and we don't think about the beautiful journey that we've been through to get there.
Right. So I love Peloton. But I was doing a strength class and it was like, it was Katie and it was doing a taco cat. So you do the thing all the way up, then you do the same thing on the way back. And it was a 90-second plank. And I was on the second version of the 90-second plank. And she's like, what's the version of this that was better than before? And I was like, dang it, I only did the plank without stopping for 37 seconds. And I was like, wait a minute. That's the first time I've done a plank for 37 seconds, not on my knees. And I did it like the whole body plank. And it was just this like catch of
Uh-huh.
like, oh, that wasn't good enough. And then I was like, this is a completely different thing than I've been doing. Wait, what just happened?
Uh-huh.
And your brain will try to tell you it it didn't hit it. And it will do those things over and over because it's trying to keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
And to your brain, safety means we're not doing the new things that are scary where you could fail at it.
Yep. We're settling. We're staying in
Exactly.
our comfort zone.
So now I
Oh.
have to get to a better plank.
We can work on it together. So much of your work is in the trade industry, and stereotypically that's been, or historically, not stereotypically, historically that's been a more male dominated field.
Mhm.
So how has that come about with your consulting? How do people treat you? Are they excited? I mean, obviously you're incredible at what you do. It seems like such an opportunity for you to be in that space.
Yeah. Here's the deal. People just want to be connected with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, when we can truly connect with people and understand, hey, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I think that that is incredibly important. And one of the things that I absolutely love about working in the trades is so often, especially, we work a lot with, it's a lot of construction. We still do quite a bit of manufacturing.
Mhm.
These are unskilled laborers, right? So these are folks that right out of high school are going to go in and they're going to get one of those line level jobs. Guess what? You know the skill it takes to be a mason? Like, do you
Mhm.
know the skill that
Uh-huh.
it takes, to be a framer and the
To be a
math that
welder, to
goes,
be a
oh my
yeah,
gosh, it's
yeah.
incredible. And so,
The work of art in a whole nother way.
it's incredible. And so the key with any of these, you talk about landscaping or hardscapes, that work is incredibly hard, but
Yeah.
what's created at the end is phenomenal.
Mhm.
And, so with each of these, it's really truly connecting with folks and figuring out what is it that they want. And so much of this is mindset work. You
Mhm.
know, when you're approaching folks, they're like, I'm here for a paycheck and I'm out. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, what are you out to do?
Yeah.
It's really connecting with folks where they are at, and it is also understanding from them what it is that they want.
Mhm.
Now, is that any different than what any of us are really doing?
Right.
Not really. Yet it is, we got to slow down and we have to connect at the level that they're at, and we have to meet folks where they're at. And when I say meet folks where they're at, I am not going to walk out on a job site in a suit or heels,
Right.
you
Oh
know?
yeah. Mhm.
And so, am I going to walk out there with jeans on? Absolutely.
Mhm.
So there's a key piece there that's a differentiator, but that other differentiator is knowing what the language is, knowing what the importance is, understanding what those key projects are that they're looking for and what those key metrics are and why that's important. That starts to shift it. There's a huge mindset shift from, we're going to pull it up by the bootstraps and,
Mhm.
and so understanding what that mindset shift is key. And, the folks in our programs have done an amazing job of sharing those and what works for them. And the generational difference has a huge impact on this as well. Um, because the youngest generation coming in, they want a work-life balance, yet they are also willing to work incredibly, incredibly hard. We just need to know why.
Yeah. Well, and I love so much of what you said, and it just made me think. So I've worked most of my career in healthcare in various areas, and people always talk about like, oh, we have the best cardiac surgeon, we have the best neurosurgeon, we have the best orthopedist, yada yada yada. What it really comes down to in healthcare, if you don't have a clean hospital and you can't feed your patients, you can't open the doors. So I
Correct.
think I just want to really honor this population that we quote call like unskilled labor because it didn't require this like massive, $100,000 in debt degree, but it is so incredibly valuable to
Hmm.
day life. If we didn't have plumbers, if we didn't have, I mean, I literally just built a house. If we didn't have these trades where these people are willing to work incredibly hard for my house, your house, the next
Hmm.
hospital, whatever it is, like, where would we be?
Right. Yeah. And Corey, I took a wrong turn, at least for me. For me, I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque and I got my nursing home administrator license.
Oh, God bless you. It takes a special person to do that. I'm not one of
And
them either.
no, no, I am not. However, what I had so much appreciation for is the CNAs
Mm-hmm.
and the heart that they had for the folks that they were taking care of. And
Mm-hmm.
the best ones cared tremendously
Mm-hmm.
about the folks that they were serving. Now, we
Mm-hmm.
had other ones that wanted to play the games, right?
Yeah. There's always in every field and every level is like
There's
that.
the games, right?
Yeah.
But here's the deal, find a job that you absolutely love. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter what it is. Are you being fulfilled in the work that you do every day?
Yep.
And, and as leaders, it is our obligation to create the container for everyone in our organization to have the choice to be fulfilled in the work. We can't force somebody to be fulfilled in the work, but we can create the opportunities where, guess what, work is much more fulfilling than it's not, because we're having the tough conversations with the folks that are playing the games, and we're not allowing that in our organization, which changes the culture. And it really does come back to, having that tough talk to say, here are what the boundaries are, here are the expectations, and what's going on that has these things not being met.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned CNAs, because of all the years that I've worked, I've never understood why hospital systems always send the CNAs home first. It's like, no, bring more. Have more CNAs on every floor, because the patients are happier, the CNAs are happier, the nurses have more time. Like, CNAs are pivotal. In case any
Yes.
hospital administrators are listening, CNAs are pivotal to the rotation of this hospital. Anyway, I don't want to get on my soapbox with that, but um, when you think about the real, like, hands-on leadership experience that you have and what you're teaching to these trades and whatnot, have some of your clients said has been the most valuable things that they've learned from you that maybe they hadn't thought of before?
Yeah. So I actually just got off a call with an individual, her name's Cindy, and she went through my leadership program last year. And I just said, hey, are you still using it? She's like, oh my gosh, Tracy, yes. She's like, actually, I had a meeting with my team this morning and I ended it with, are you complete? And so one of the things that we talk about is, really ensuring that we're stopping things before we move on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And so this question of, are you complete, allows us to take a beat and ensure that there's understanding to what was just being said.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that we're not nexting from one to the next, to the next, to the next, that we end up at the end of the day and we're like, what the heck did I do today? And did I actually accomplish anything? And I don't
Right.
know. And then we look at our notebook and we're like, there's 0 gains here. It's like, hold on. Are
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
complete? Yes. What made that complete? Okay. What was the gain with it? Right. And these can be like 10 seconds. So I named that one just because it just came up.
Yeah. No,
What
I appreciate that. Because how often do we go anywhere and we have a meeting with a boss or colleagues or whatever, and you're like, wait, I just left that meeting. Did we get an answer to that? I'm not sure we got an answer to that.
Well, and the thing that it does is it creates presence. And presence is really important, and I'll define it. And I think another thing that is a key takeaway, we just finished a leadership development cohort yesterday, and 3 of the folks in there said, definition, Tracy, was the biggest thing we're taking away. And it's defining what we mean by something, but it's also defining where we're going. So often we don't know what our goals are, so we don't know what we're measuring against. And
Mm-hmm.
when we can define it as a team, hey, what does good look like for this project? It looks like this. Okay, so if we're 6 months from now, will we have a yes or no on this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Okay, that means we need to define it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a rabbit trail here, back to the presence. Like, what does presence mean? Presence means I'm 100% in my head and in my environment with you. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing else on my screen. My phone's not up so I can look at it. There's no dinging happening. And I, in my head, am not thinking about the meeting I just came from, what I'm doing tonight with kids. And now that I'm talking about it, I am, right? But
Right. Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but all of those things are out so that I can 100% be with you, Corey, and that's presence, right? And so by saying, are you complete? What we're doing is we're creating an opportunity that we can have presence to move on to that next topic.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, it makes people feel heard and important and valued as part of the team.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And then, if you've got a group of 12 people around you, that individual that is typically, very analytical and very reserved, meaning they're probably not going to say something until they have it all figured out
Right.
and know exactly what it is. When agendas change in a meeting, there's no agenda, no attenda, right? But at the end, when you say, are we complete? That person that heard something a half hour ago and has been working through it says, wait a second, I've got a question on this that goes back to that. Can we circle back for a second? Yes, absolutely.
I love that. I want to make sure that our audience can get in touch with you, can follow you, can hire you if they want to. How can they do that?
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you two things. One is we have a podcast called the People Strategy Podcast that talks about people strategies. And we have something called our Tough Talk Audit. So if you have a tough conversation that you need to have that you're not sure how to have, that's going to leave with a really good relationship at the end, it's a great tool.
I love that. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that our audience knows, hears about, or any lasting advice that you have?
I am just so grateful for you, Corey. And I just want to bring up the permissioning piece again, because I think it's so important. So whatever it is that you want to do, give yourself permission to do it and give yourself permission to dream and start working towards that.
I love that so much. We all need to give ourselves permission. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks so much, Corey.
As we close out today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Your next level is already within you. If you're feeling that pull for more clarity, more alignment, and more courage to step fully into who you're meant to be, this is your invitation to take the next step. Whether you're an entrepreneur ready to scale or a woman standing at the edge of something bigger, the path forward starts with trusting your desires, owning your worth, and leading with your inner knowing. This is exactly what I offer. Private VIP coaching, and where I guide women inside the 10K Club and 50K Club through consulting with She Sells and Superhuman Selling to help you gain clarity, step into aligned action, and build a life and business that reflects your highest vision. If you're ready to explore what's next, let's have a conversation. Book a free call now at www.corywinn.com/free call. I can't wait to connect with you. Talk soon.